Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm painting a blue whale to illustrate the second page of my A to Z endangered species poetry book. While you watch me paint, I want to talk about something that I've struggled with throughout my artistic journey, and that's perfectionism and the procrastination that it inevitably leads to. I know this is something that so many creatives deal with. It's that frustrating voice in your head telling you that your work isn't good enough. Although I love making art, I've rarely been satisfied with what I create, and I really struggle to live up to the unreasonable expectations that I set myself. I'm usually afraid to start new projects because I'll be exposing myself to the risk of failure. And by that I mean the failure to create anything less than perfect. Failure to meet those self-imposed expectations. I've often felt that I need to wait for the perfect moment to start putting an idea onto paper, which of course doesn't exist. There is no perfect moment or perfect mindset for creating. If we suffer from this perfection paralysis, the problem is that we end up spending so little time actually making art, so we don't improve the way we could if we just went for it and stopped worrying about the outcome. Something I've been trying to practice is the 80% rule. That means instead of always aiming to create your absolute best, most perfect work, aim for 80% of that. Try to remember that objectively, perfect doesn't actually exist. There will always be room for improvement. So if you have the mindset that achieving 80% of your expectations counts as a win, you're more likely to stay motivated to keep creating, which will ultimately lead to much greater progress over time. In this way, your future 80% will end up being much greater than your current 100%. I've also come to realise that when it comes to creating art, there's really no such thing as failure. Yeah, we can always make a bad drawing or painting, but through doing that we've actually gained so much valuable insight. If we don't allow ourselves to make mistakes, how can we ever expect to learn from them? We can actually retrain our mind to embrace those mistakes as a vital part of the learning process. But if we're overly hard on ourselves, our mind will go into self-preservation mode, and procrastination is its most useful defense mechanism. I wasn't really happy with the way this blue whale painting turned out, and maybe at one point I would have seen it as a failure and abandoned it halfway through. I've lost count of all my unfinished pieces over the years, or the artwork I've torn up in frustration, but now I'm really trying to get over those doubts and just trust the process. I really think it's worth pushing through that ugly stage that most artwork goes through, and even if we do end up redoing it in the end, finishing that less successful piece is going to set us up for a much smoother run on the second attempt. The path to improvement is never straight. It bends and loops back on itself, which can often make it hard to realise that we're still moving forward along the path. As long as we do keep creating and putting one foot in front of the other, we are going to make progress. I think a lot of us have the tendency to hyper-focus on the parts of our artwork that we feel we messed up on, but when other people see our work, they have no idea what our intentions with the piece were. They'll take the image at face value and appreciate the overall bigger picture. I've often noticed this with my own work that I've put away in a drawer for a while until I've completely forgotten about it, and when I do look at it again months later, I'm no longer focused on all the flaws, and I actually realise that I did a pretty good job. Don't get me wrong, I think that being self-critical is important, and striving for a high level of quality in their work is what drives a lot of great artists to grow and evolve. I think there's a fine line though between knowing you can improve and feeling inadequate. I think that one of the biggest traps many artists fall into is comparing themselves to others, especially on social media. It's easy to scroll through what seems like an endless feed of flawless, polished artwork and feel discouraged, but the thing is, we're only seeing a fraction of someone else's artistic journey, their best work and proudest moments. We don't see their struggles, failed attempts, and the self-doubt that they were also wrestling with behind the scenes. So instead of measuring yourself against someone else's timeline, just try to focus on your own growth. The key is to be kind to yourself. Practice self-compassion the same way you would encourage a fellow artist. Celebrate the small wins, the minor breakthroughs and the lessons learned, even if it's just the simple act of finishing a piece. Progress isn't built on perfection, it's built on persistence. So instead of chasing a flawless result, chase growth. Pursue better, not perfect. Is this the best painting I could have done? No. Am I completely satisfied with it? Not really. Did I learn from the process though? Absolutely, and more importantly, I pushed through those doubts and saw it through to the end.